More Heart Than Talent Radio.
Jeffery Combs, President Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is a beautiful June 30th, 2020, the last day of June. So we are at the 6-month point. So 4th of July is right around the corner. I'm going to go ahead and let some of you come on here, and then we will move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live as we reach the top of the hour, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are on a new forum here that Facebook has changed, so I will do the best that we can. I am operating in my office on my laptop. Oftentimes I do the Facebook Live on my cell phone in another office, but it looks like we have a new forum here. So if you just come on, let me know you're here on Facebook Live. This is Jeffery Combs, President, Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is now officially 4 o'clock. We're going to move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. Go ahead and give me a wave if you're on Facebook Live here. I don't see anyone populated in the live here today. So we're about a minute into it. Cassiopeia, good afternoon. Welcome. It's officially 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It is the time of Facebook Live, More Heart Than Talent, and we're eventually going to change the name of this to the Golden Mastermind Facebook Live. J.A. Johns, welcome. Sky Edmonds, see Matt Smith, welcome to Facebook Live. We're going to move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. We'll do about 25 minutes. We'll wrap it up, and then I will host another Facebook Live later this evening at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So when I do the Facebook Live at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I do it in an office, in my upstairs office. When I do the late night Facebook Lives, I do it off of my cell phone at my desk. So that's just for, you see the backgrounds are both different. Today's topic for Facebook Live is acceptance, and then I've added the word consciousness, meaning to accept is to raise your level of energy. In any of David Hawkins' content in the book Letting Go, Transmuting, or in any type of transformation in Hawkins' content in Power versus Force, in Letting Go, in any of his books, he brings up the topic of acceptance. Anytime you move into the state of acceptance, your acceptance is honesty. You move into a state of honesty or in a state of knowing. So in that state of acceptance, that acceptance consciousness, acceptance awareness, acceptance understanding, it means you're coming from a place of know. That's a place of power rather than a place of I don't know, I don't understand. And this is one of the most challenging aspects for a large percent of society is they live in a I don't understand, I don't know, I can't figure this out, I can't make sense of it, this doesn't make sense. That's the analytical egoic mind that lives in a overwhelmed state, wanting to know the answers, wanting someone else to give them the answers. This oftentimes is a grown-up child, a grown-up that's still acting like a child, requiring being told what to do. This is what happens in a lot of dysfunctional relationships. A man marries a woman marries a man, and one of them becomes the force while the other one becomes the counterforce. And even though there's this codependency, this conflict that goes on in this relationship, one tells the other what to do, the other one rebels against the other, and they're in this non-accepted state of dysfunction. Then they stay in this relationship over and over and over, and then the other relationships will be attracted very similar to fulfill the same set of feelings. And then the addict will continue to say, I don't understand this. I don't know why I'm doing this. Well, the reason that anyone would do this is because an addict always wants a little more. And when you're addicted to a set of feelings, a set of emotions, the body that runs the brain will attract to the same reality over and over, familiar feelings to create the same situations. Now, in one of Hawkins' books called Transcending Levels of Consciousness, that means that there is a map of the scale of consciousness, meaning consciousness is knowing, understanding, awareness. Now, when you're in that state, you're not in your lower self, your ego. Your lower self is going to be a situation where you have low self-esteem. Now, self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Confidence is how you feel about some other situation. So you can have low self-esteem and even have low confidence. You have no esteem about yourself, then you're not confident or competent about starting a new business. You can have low self-esteem and have a job and be competent in a job because of the job skills, conditioning, education, and some of these situations. You can actually excel even in a job, however, and still have low self-esteem where your relationships are not whole, or they're not rounded off, and your relationships are very condensed and very low, and you're not feeling any love from anyone, but you can still have that job and be paid what that job is worth. So one of the biggest challenges that Americans, Canadians, Australians, business owners around the world face is letting go of the identity, letting go of the ego. So step number one is acceptance. I mean, it's the most fundamental. So this would be the cornerstone of a house. That would be the L, the angle, the corner of the house where you build the build the footing. So you build the footing around that one cornerstone, the strongest point of the house. That's your foundation. The foundation of recovery, the foundation of sobriety, the foundation of transformation, the foundation of change, the foundation of any spirituality starts with acceptance. Accepting God is a major accomplishment for many people. Or accepting the fact that you have challenges, accepting the fact that you have an addiction, accepting the fact that you're not skilled at a situation, letting go of being right, letting go of being angry. Any situation that allows you to separate your feelings from the events and you scale up, now you move into a no state. I know I have a challenge. That's the beginning of the change, that's the evolutionary change and transformation that you've stepped into. This means you're moving into change how I've been changing. And you can read books, go to Tony Robbins seminars, you can watch podcasts, you can listen to downloads, you can read books, you can do all this content, and this is called the knowledge. You can spend a lot of time in the knowledge, but there's an application of the knowledge. The application is the repetition and experience. And many people have challenges accepting this next phase of it because they have challenges accepting that people are not rejecting them. When someone doesn't buy from you, when someone doesn't join you, when someone turns you down on a date, when someone passes on the opportunity to have coffee with you, generally speaking, they're not rejecting you. Whatever reason is their reason. As you begin to let go of whatever the reason is, now you can move into acceptance. You could accept the fact that it's not in the cards, it's not the right person, it's not the right time. They don't see the value, they don't see the opportunity. But when you use terms like they ghosted me, they stood me up, in these situations, now you're personalizing it. When you can accept that you do this, when you're personalizing the situations in this forum, in these feelings, now you're moving into a higher level of consciousness. So on the syllabus for today's Facebook Live, now I write out 7 bullet points for every single call. So point number 1 on this today was rigorous honesty. In any 12-step program or any level of transformation, there requires a term called honesty. Honesty is also integrity. Honesty can also move into a state of metacognition. That's where acceptance. So acceptance, honesty, then understanding follows that. But until you're ready to commit to this process, then you're going to continue to stay in the avoidance state, the avoidance tendencies. You'll get ready to get ready. You'll get your ducks in line. You'll keep doing what you're doing to fulfill the same set of feelings in a very tense, overwhelmed body, cutting off all energy, saying, I don't understand this. I don't know why I do this. This always happens to me. And when I'm assisting people to attract a soulmate, a teammate, there's often a narrative. There's often a set of statements. There's often a communication style that says, all the men I attract, all the people I'm attracting, no one has any money because of COVID, because of the pandemic, because of what's going on in the world. No one has any money. So this becomes a story that many people tell themselves. This is the analytical egoic mind justifying, validating, and explaining why success isn't happening, why results isn't happening, why you're not attracting the man you're seeking to date, the woman you're seeking to date, any multitude of situations. You keep validating it. And what many people do is they will target one prospect, or they'll target one man, or they'll target one job, and they'll hold on to this one little job, and if they don't get this little job or this little man or this little woman, they put all this pressure on, then see, it justifies being right. See, this always happens to me. And that type of communication is called denial. And when you're in denial, there's no way you can be honest. And one of the most challenging aspects of breaking through any type of emotional addiction that then manifests into a physical addiction, such as compulsive debting, spending, drug addiction, alcoholism, in sex addictions, any situations like this, it's very challenging for most of society to understand that the addiction is an effect, there's an underlying cause, there's a series of events connected to the cause, and as you begin to understand why you do what you do, now you can move into the separation of it. And that acceptance becomes knowing, when you know. And I spend a great deal of time with my clients understanding that we selectively forget many events and we repress them. Now, the body knows what happened to us, and then we also have suppressed feelings. Your suppressed feelings are the mistakes you make over and over to fulfill your feelings, or the situations you recreate that you know you do it, but you don't know why you do it. You become a chronic avoider, you know you're avoiding. You have a good intention of poor delivery, and you keep doing the same thing over and over. You promise that you're going to quit on July 6th, but you don't really get around to it. You know you were going to, but you didn't. Those are suppressed feelings. The repressed feelings are the feelings that you selectively chose to forget. And your body chose to forget, you forgot, and you don't remember, and you say you don't know. And in that state of I don't know, I don't remember, my whole childhood was a blur, all this, up until this point, so that selected forgetfulness that you live in is the denial that keeps you doing what you're doing. When you have a better understanding of why you do what you do, when you're committed to this process of change, when you have a better understanding, when you can interrupt a feeling in mid-moment, now that's acceptance. When you move into acceptance, that becomes a relief for you. It's like, I can accept this. I can accept that I can do this one day at a time. I can accept that I can make 10 phone calls today. When you start out with small incremental goals that you can accomplish, small ones, so that you can build on them. So there's a repetition and experience over and over. But if you're a big deal chaser, a big talker, you have big talk and small action that leads to disappointment, well, that's what most people do. They do the same thing over and over to fulfill the same set of feelings, to recreate the same outcome, to do what they do. And when you have lived in this energy a long period of time, you have built up an emotional tolerance. And that emotional tolerance is the challenge that you will have in letting go. Because your analytical egoic mind will want to edify how difficult it is, how hard it is, how scarce money is, how difficult it is to attract a qualified buyer, to close a sale, to find a soulmate, a teammate, a vendor, a contractor, an employee, the car you want, the situation, the job you want, and the situation that's going on. That no one will loan you any money for the house you want to buy. So the analytical egoic mind will create ways, validations, justifications, qualifications of why I can't, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, and would not be able to. This becomes very exhausting. This type of energy is draining, it's fleeting, it's overwhelming, and it creates a state of apathy. In that apathy, which is a very low level of energy, you'll continue to attract to your reality perpetrators, violators, dishonest people, people who take advantage of you, people who disappoint you. And your ego won't really understand this unless you're really committed to this process. And this process of transformation requires honesty, acceptance. And once you move into that, you've absolutely separated yourself above anxiety, fear, and doubt. You're above courage, and you're in a place called acceptance. And acceptance is a place you absolutely begin to change the way you've been changing. Because your energy changes. You can accept that you made a lot of mistakes in your life. And you accept that you're 56 years old and you have nothing to show for it. You accept that. And you stop criticizing yourself for what you don't have, what you didn't do, for the regrets you have from your past, from the broken homes, from the divorces, from the drug arrests, from whatever it is when you move into acceptance, you unequivocally are moving into consciousness. You're moving into recovery. One of the most liberating experiences for me was that when I started going to 12-step meetings, was to realize the entire room was filled with people who'd gone to jail, hit rock bottom, had been homeless, had been divorced, had been through challenges, and there was a lot of recovery in the rooms in my early career. There was a lot of success in the rooms. People had overcome these situations, and it gave me it gave me an anchor to go, wow, these people have done this. I can be that person. I can do that. and I started to really buy into that program. I started to accept that I was an alcoholic. I also had a challenge early in my career going powerless over alcohol. What the fuck, dude? What do you mean powerless over alcohol? Well, I mean, it was, my ego was too big to admit that I was powerless at first. And when I started to understand what surrendering meant, that surrendering had more than one meaning. I mean, when I learned how to surrender my will to be right and started to understand that that form of surrender was empowering, and I wasn't waving the white flag, I wasn't surrendering because I was weak. I was surrendering because my ego was bigger than my ability to let go. And in that state, it was very liberating for me to move into that level of acceptance. And when I also accepted that I required to be part of a culture instead of isolating and be part of a community that fostered the process, and I found that in network marketing, I found that in spirituality, I found that in 12-step programs, I found that being a community where I could be one with rather than separate from, it started to change the way I've been changing. And when I started to actually find mentors and sponsors and other people that could give me insight and wisdom rather than me just being a hardaholic and trying to figure it out on my own and really be in that letting go process, that was acceptance. And it's in acceptance that you start to feel a different level of emotion, a different level of vibration. Acceptance is very liberating because it takes you off the hook. It takes you off the guilt, shame, blame hook. It takes you out of apathy and starts to scale you up into consciousness. It moves you up into above doubt, and it moves you to the bottom of consciousness, which is courage. Now, courage is not an emotion. Courage is a quality. It's going to require some courage to accept the fact that you've made a lot of mistakes in life. It's going to require some courage to address the shame you hold on to of some of the events you never want to tell anyone about. When you're able to at least let go of some of these feelings you've had of regret and shame and accept the fact that I really did this, this really happened to me, it becomes liberating. Because instead of trying to hide it and bury it and live in this condensed body of it, you start to open up. Your energy starts to exude. And it's that exudance of energy that allows you to change who and what you attract. When you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. That's what letting go is. And in letting go, it gives you the opportunity to be more present. When you're not accepting, you're in a worried state. You're worried that someone's going to violate you, someone's going to reject you. You're worried you're going to make a mistake. You're worried you're going to get in trouble. You're worried about all kinds of situations that haven't happened, which keeps you in a very overwhelmed body. But once you move into acceptance, then that doesn't have the same energy around it. Once you move into accept it, you can accept that you're new at this process. You can accept that you're not skilled at it. You can accept that you're willing to stay in this process long enough to master it. It takes a lot of pressure that isn't even real off of you because you begin to accept that you're going to stay in whatever it is long enough, one day at a time, to change the way you've been changing. And it's that acceptance that will unequivocally begin to change who and what you attract. Who and what you attract is also a skill. Letting go is a skill, attraction is a skill, and when you become skilled at attraction, you will change what you've been attracting. But if your story is, I always attract, a lot of men and women will say there aren't any good men out there, there aren't any good women out there. Well, it's because what you've been attracting throughout the annals of your life. And as you begin to change who and what you attract, as you have a different set of criteria, a different level of boundaries, as you begin to move out of wanting someone else to take care of you, as you move into higher levels of consciousness, as you begin to let go, now you move into the place where your energy changes, your energy shifts, and so there's like a portal that opens up. When you're holding on, this is what it looks like. The hole, the keyhole, no smoke can get through it. But as you begin to let go, that little keyhole begins to open up and it starts to widen. And you can begin to change who, instead of it being like this, all of a sudden it becomes like this. In sports, it's like your eyesight changes. When you are worried about striking out in the batter's box and you're very uptight like this, or if you're ever shooting a weapon or a bow and arrow and you're worried about injuring your arm or you're worried about not hitting the target, and when you put energy into what you don't want, you attract that to fulfill those feelings. So the ego can say, see, this always happens to me. And when you're worried about being late and you're worried about getting to the airport on time, well, typically what happens is you get so overwhelmed that you create the situation to just barely pull it off at the last minute, because that's how you've been living, in this last minute, overwhelmed, overexerted body to fulfill the cardio cocktail that addicts live on: the low high, the high low, the spike that goes up and the spike that goes down. The exhaustion that is created by being addicted to being overwhelmed. Now, when you can accept that, when you can accept that you are unorganized and you can accept that you are overwhelmed, and when you stop talking like, oh my God, I'll never get this, I'll never master this, it's so much, I don't know where to start. Well, that's how an addict talks. An addict always wants a little more. So the compounded effect, you keep putting more on it, over obligating, overwhelming yourself, keep doing the same thing over and over until one day you go, oh my God, the pain is great enough. That's acceptance. When you accept that the pain's great enough, with two different clients today, they both said, I am so done with this. Now, I had them say that over and over in a affirmation, and I had them use the F word for effect, but I am so done with this. And I could feel in their vibration that they actually meant it. I could feel in the tonality of their voice. First it's like, I'm so done with this. Then it became, I am so done with this. I assisted someone today to understand an event that happened to them at a very, very young age that therapists had missed, the doctors had missed, and this client of mine had been medicated, and I was able to assist him with understanding that there was an event in a certain timeline in a chronology that happened that is a byproduct of the way they live today. And that acceptance was like, so that was a major breakthrough, and I was able to facilitate with this man in less than half an hour. In the first half hour that I coached him, and he was able to go, oh my God. And so he moved into this level of acceptance. Now, this potentially could change this man's life, because at 41 years old, this event that happened to him was 6. He had completely selectively forgotten that this had happened. And by have a better understanding of this, and I assisted him to move out of that. That makes sense. This isn't about sense. This is about understanding. That's acceptance. And when you can accept this, when you can accept that you're not very skilled, and let go of comparing yourself to other people, when you can accept that you've procrastinated for years and you haven't really put the effort in to build a business, when you can accept that and realize that you have 6 more months this year to create some significant change, and you start to change the way you set goals, you set incremental goals that you can achieve. You start to set clearly defined short-term goals that are measurable and accomplishable. When you start to have daily goals, when you start to have daily blocks of time, when you can accept that you're winging it, when you can accept that you're not really putting any energy into it, when you can accept that you've been pathologically lying to yourself about the effort you're putting forth, you are you, and you are starting to become free. You're letting go. And it's in this let go process of acceptance that you will begin to change gradually who and what. And in acceptance, you can also let go of making mistakes, worrying about the outcome, so you can learn to ask the questions in a sequence. Very few people ever master this because of how overwhelmed they stay. They never actually get around to effective prospecting, effective communication, effective content writing, effective lead generation, because they stay in this overwhelmed state, not really accepting why they do what they do, and then hoping mythically, magically, that going to the seminar or workshop is going to break them through. Now, the seminars and workshops can, depending on what you attend, can absolutely give you insight and wisdom, but on the day that you return, or the day that the next day, or after that webinar or that Zoom, you go into some level of action based on the acceptance, and you start to create a different level of result, a different solution, a different outcome. You start to focus on the energy that will create the outcome that is required for you to break through, to be paid, to be compensated, to rank advance, to buy a home, to buy a property, to attract someone that can assist you in being the right person. I mean, these are the situations that are the byproducts of number one, acceptance. Acceptance is unequivocally the cornerstone of the transformation that is required of you to break through. So being comfortable with the facts is part of acceptance. You're comfortable with the facts, you accept them, you understand them, and you know them. And then point number Let's go to point number 4, accepting what you did. So that takes you into shame and guilt. And then as we wrap this up here, letting go. Letting go is your ability to separate your feelings from the events. As you let go of guilt, guilt is what other people do to you to control you. Shame are the feelings you hold on to about what you did. So in that level of acceptance, you can stop saying he's a really good person, but you can also be very clear on what you did and be comfortable with it. So in those, when you address guilt and shame, that's some of the lowest level of energy that you reside in. As you begin to let go of guilt and shame and apathy, you unequivocally begin to scale up in energy. This will be what will change the game for you in the next 6 months. And then in your communication style, as you become a lot better in articulating your feelings, because you moved into acceptance. Articulation means you're able to finish sentences, you don't tell stories, you use 5 to 15 words that end with questions. You're not worried about being direct. You start to be clear because you have clarity, and you become much more effective in your communication style. The way you communicate between your brain and your body, the way you communicate yourself, the way you communicate with others, you become a lot more effective. And then that allows you to sit down and write at the computer. You can write a post, you can write content, you can go to LinkedIn, you can send a message into someone's inbox, you can write on Twitter, you can write on Instagram, you can post a picture, because you can accept some of your flaws, you can accept some of your deficiencies, you can accept some of the situations that have held you back. You can accept your lack of results, focus on being able to create new ones when you move into this level of acceptance. This is major game-changing energy when you move into a level of acceptance. Now, if you have not taken advantage of a free 20-minute coaching call with me and you would like to receive that value, I offer that to first-time clients who have not ever received that content before. And if you have some interest in hiring me to be your coach either now or the next 6 months, you can go right up there into Messenger and send me a message with your phone number, and I will return your phone call within less than 24 hours. It's good to see a lot of you on the last Tuesday here of June 2020. It has been my absolute privilege to be here with you on this Facebook Live. I will be live here this evening at 9 p.m. Pacific. That is 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much, and you have a great afternoon.
More Heart Than Talent Radio.